This week's assignment, the question was why assessments matter. Why do we need to assess or test our students? While this can be different from an evaluation, as assessments are part of an evaluation, assessments are important. I begin with the quote from the Bible, James chapter 1, verses 2 to 4. And when we look at this, the question that was asked of us this week is, do our students grow stronger through assessment? Why, it's a simple enough question, but it does have a lot of meaning behind it. So to try and evaluate this, notice I'm evaluating an assessment, but to evaluate, I've gone into some of the literature that I've had access to over my years to see what some of the uh, experts have to say about it. So, do we grow stronger through an assessment? Well, as you can see, what Barclay stated in the text, okay, we have the ability within education to grow stronger, to have students benefit through the use of assessments. Okay, and I find myself using that a lot, so I apologize. The word okay, not teaching to an audience, but a recording takes some getting used to. Although by now I would think I'd be used to it because this is how I've been teaching for months. But within this definition, the goal is to provide the student and educator with knowledge of improvement. While a student, as I say, may progress forward, we also may find they lack in certain areas. So assessments are important. It provides the student and the educator with feedback as to their performance set against a course objective, curriculum, and goals. So you should really start with the first question of what is an assessment? Well, Killian was pretty straightforward with the definition. Assessment is an objective measurement based on data for improving something. Notice we look at it and we say it's the objective, not subjective. It's not something that we just think or apply, but that we can actually assess based on data points that are provided to the student through the educational curriculum, through the course itself, when we set this course up. So as I stated here, there are standards that need to be met and therefore met and instructed towards so that they can work towards that perfection that was discussed in the beginning. It was interesting to me to find out through the readings of these numerous authors the different opinions that arise out of when to assess, when is it not important to assess, how to assess. So regardless, when we're assessing, we need to ensure that we have quality of assessment, that the tool that we're utilizing, and you'll hear a lot of times the words reliability and validity thrown around, but that can take time to create, especially the validity of an exam, through using that exam time and time and time again to ensure that what is being assessed is accurate. But what counts as quality in assessment and capabilities aligning and connecting with the curriculum standards based on our system, Klonowski 2014. Again, we assess quality, or our quality assessment, as it would be, is being looked at as to whether or not the assessment is meeting the objectives of the course. And are we able to connect the two together? Therefore, ensuring that I'm teaching you something and you are gaining that knowledge, and then be able to regurgitate it back, being able to read it, write it, regurgitate it, practice it, as it may be. So educators need to know what to assess. Surprisingly enough, it isn't something that is just naturally innate in our naturally acquired in our personality. We actually have, as educators, to work on this, to strive to ensure that what we're using is a good tool, because an assessment truly is nothing more than a tool, a way for the student to be able to ensure they're understanding what is being taught. Conversely, as an educator, to ensure that we are teaching what is being met with those standards and goals, and that the students are comprehending it. Now, granted, there are many different forms of assessment. I will give you that. There is, the formative assessment, sometimes called a quiz, the summative assessment, the final exam or exam for certification or licensure, as it may be. But an assessment tool could be something as a portfolio in a class, that students, as they reach benchmarks or complete different skills, they're being signed off on those skills, and that goes into the portfolio. So that at the end of a course, for example, we have these quality assessments that were done throughout that now indicate to us as the educator and to the system that this person has met, and either has met or exceeded the expectations of whatever it is being learned. But when do you create the assessment? So on this one, I actually went to Popham and read, I had previously read this text, but I had to go back and research a little bit. And you can see what was said here. Classroom assessment instruments should always be prepared prior to any instructional planning, in order for the teacher to better understand what is being sought of the students, and therefore what to incorporate. So once we know what that curriculum is, once we know what our course objective, therefore the curriculum being built under it, we then build the assessment tools to tie them into those, so that once the material starts to be presented, we know that our assessments are accurate to what is supposed to be being assessed. Now, it may sound confusing, but a lot of times what it's essentially saying is you don't want to create an assessment on the fly. Yes, we know for a fact in years past, you might get hit with the pop quiz when you come into class. But that pop quiz and the name connotates that, oh my God, I'm not prepared for it, but yet you're never going to you should never really be assessed, even in something like a formative assessment, on material that has not yet been presented or mandated to have been read prior to the class. I throw that last caveat in because I have used pop quizzes when reading assignments have been given to ensure that they have been read. Now, it can be something very simple. No differently than a lot of my fellow teachers like to use exit assessments every day, that a student completes an instrument prior to being allowed to leave for the day, to just, again, ensure that they've gotten the concepts of what is being taught. So, that's kind of a good idea of when to create the assessment right at the beginning. But is it possible? Is it possible to obtain a perfect assessment? Well, here we look at Stiggins. Now, Stiggins is also a student of Popham, but Stiggins wrote, in a perfect system, the focus of assessment is student mastery of individual, high priority academic achievement standards, not mastery of broad domains of achievement. So what are we looking at there? We're looking at the student having been able to met or master the standard for the course that they're in. Okay. That means you've mastered it. But does that mean you've perfected it? That really is the question, isn't it? Can you perfect something? Can you perfect the topic that you're in, or that you're studying, or that you're writing about, or that you're educating about, or learning about? So my summation, and granted, this is not long, but my summation, excuse me, kind of proves it out. Is it possible to attain perfection? We as human beings by design are not perfect beings. That's correct. We're not perfect. Some people may think they are. I'd be the first one to stand in line and say, I am not perfect. You know, a simple prayer that I use all the time is something that would be appropriate, and that is, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. I am not perfect. None of us are. But yet we strive for perfection. We want to be perfect. We want to do the best we can. So, can an assessment make a student learn? Simply put, yeah. Perfection, while a lofty goal, can never truly be achieved. Just strive for it in a discipline of the student. To ask the better question would be to ask, can I achieve success and continue to increase my knowledge through curriculum and assessment? The answer to that would be yes. Within the medical field and medicine in general, it has also often been said, and while I don't have the quote right at my fingertips, it's something that was ingrained in my brain 40 years ago. And that is, medicine is an art, not a science. And what is meant by that is, in science, we use a scientific method to prove a point. But medicine is an art, meaning that the artist never doesn't draw what they see, but they see what they draw. And in medicine, I can never truly understand everything because everything is constantly changing. But we can assess your knowledge. We can say, do you have the aptitude to be at a certain level, and therefore practice? You notice you practice medicine, meaning you've never perfected it. So this is my submission for week 4. I hope you found it enlightening. I hope you found it asking more questions, but understanding that, unlike what James said back in the very first comment or quotation from James chapter 1, 2-4, I can go back and simply say, when you meet the trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let this steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. Again, may you have its full effect. But can we ever truly gain that full effect? I thank you and hope that you have a wonderful day. God bless.